The day I told my sister our mother died, she said she was on a date and couldn't talk. 2 days later, she showed up, asking for mom's jewelry. My son handed her a small wooden box. When she opened it, she froze in place. She never expected what was inside. I didn't plan to start this story like this, but I think I need to. Because what happened wasn't just about grief or death or family. It was about truth, the kind that sneaks up on you and stays stuck in your throat, the kind that changes what you believe about people you thought you knew your whole life. My name is Ayla, and I'm a single mom. I live with my 11-year-old son, Micah, in a quiet part of upstate New York, just the two of us. And until recently, my mother, Esther, lived with us too. She passed away last week, and everything since then has felt like a slow-motion car crash. But before I take you back to those final days, I need to tell you what happened right after she died. It was a Tuesday morning. The sun had just started to rise, casting this soft golden light into her bedroom. I sat by her bed holding her hand, just like I had for months. Her breathing had been shallow all night, but when it stopped, it was like the world did too. I remember pressing my fingers against her wrist as if I didn't already know. I wanted to believe I had imagined it, but I hadn't. She was gone. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat there, numb, staring at the woman who raised me, who gave up everything to make sure I had something, who loved me in ways I didn't understand until I became a mother myself. Eventually, I stood up and walked out of her room. Micah was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table, sketching something in his notebook. He looked up at me. He knew. "She's gone, isn't she?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He didn't cry either. He just closed his notebook and came over to hug me. His arms were small but strong. That hug held me together. I called the hospice nurse. Then I called the funeral home. I moved like a machine, checking boxes, making lists, doing what had to be done. But there was one more call I had to make. I didn't want to. I really didn't. But it was the right thing to do. I dialed Talia, my sister. We don't talk much. Haven't in years. She moved to Los Angeles a while back, chasing dreams I never fully understood. She's flashy, beautiful, always has the right bag, the perfect hair, the Instagram-worthy life. She barely called when Mom got sick, maybe once every couple of months, usually to ask how much longer she thought Mom had. Still, she was family, and Mom would have wanted her to know. So I called. It rang 3 times. Then her voice, bright and airy, came through. "Hey, Ayla, can I call you back? I'm on a date." I didn't speak right away. She continued, not even pausing to hear my voice. "We just ordered wine. Can we catch up later?" I forced the words out. "Talia, Mom died this morning." Silence, just for a second, then she sighed. "Oh, wow. That's okay. I really can't talk right now. I'll call you later tonight, okay?" I didn't answer. She hung up before I could. I stared at the phone in my hand. My body felt hollow. Micah came over, sensing something had shifted. "What happened?" "She said she was on a date," I whispered. "She couldn't talk." Micah's eyes narrowed, but he didn't say anything. And that was the moment I knew something had changed. Not just in my family, but in me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even text her back. I just turned off my phone, walked back to my mother's room, and sat beside her one more time. Because the truth is, death doesn't just take the person you love, it shows you the people who never really stood beside you. And Talia? She had made her place clear. I always thought losing someone would feel like a loud moment, like thunder cracking through your chest. But when my mother passed, everything felt quiet, not peaceful, just empty. Her name was Esther, and she was the kind of woman people stopped to talk to even if they didn't know her. There was something in her eyes, calm, kind, wise. She raised me and my sister on her own after our father left. We didn't have much, but what we had was hers. Her time, her love, her fierce protection. She was my best friend. After her diagnosis, I moved her into our home. It wasn't even a question. I cleared out the guest room, added a recliner, bought her a small white diffuser that filled the room with lavender, her favorite scent. I work from home, freelance editing mostly, so I adjusted my schedule. Every morning I'd make her oatmeal with cinnamon and sit on the edge of her bed while she told me stories. Sometimes she forgot the endings, but she always smiled through them. Micah, my son, was the only one who could make her laugh when the pain got really bad. He'd draw cartoons of her as a superhero. Grandma Lightning, he called her, because she strikes fast with hugs and justice. We knew the end was coming. The doctor said we had months. We barely got weeks. Still, I didn't regret a second of it. The strange part about grief is how it doesn't just live in the big moments. It shows up in the smallest details. The way the hallway still smells like her hand cream. The silence after dinner where her voice used to be. The cup she left on the counter that no one wants to move. After she passed, I started going through her things slowly. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Hospice had removed the medical equipment. The bed was still there, though. Her robe hung behind the door like she might step into it at any moment. I found letters she wrote to us years ago, some addressed to me, some to Micah. One was never sealed. It just said, "When I'm gone, give this to her." But there was no name. I didn't know if her meant me, Talia, or someone else. I left it for later. There was so much to do. I kept waiting for Talia to call back. She didn't. Not that day, not the next either. She finally texted 2 days later, no apology, just, "Hey, I'm flying in tomorrow. Did mom leave me anything? Like jewelry or stuff?" That was it. No. How are you? No, I'm sorry. No memory, no emotion, just a checklist. I stared at her message until the screen dimmed. I wanted to scream, to tell her she had no right to even ask. But I didn't, because Talia had always been this way. Even when we were little, she would show up late, skip birthdays, leave holidays early. She was never cruel, just distant. She lived in her own world, always chasing some new idea of what life was supposed to look like. And now here she was, asking for part of the life she'd chosen to ignore. The truth is, Talia and Mom were never close. Not really. They argued a lot. Talia thought Mom was too emotional, too wrapped up in traditions and memories. She wanted fast, new, shiny. She hated the past. And yet, somehow, she always expected a piece of it to belong to her. I didn't know what to do with that text. Micah was the one who broke the silence. He looked up from his cereal and said, "If she's coming, maybe we should give her something." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "I don't know, just something she can take." I didn't answer, but later that day I saw him in Esther's room opening drawers. He didn't touch anything valuable. He just looked, like he was trying to understand who she really was. That night I sat at the kitchen table and stared out the window while the kettle boiled. I thought about the jewelry box on Esther's dresser, the same one she had since we were kids. It wasn't full of diamonds, just little things that meant something to her. A brooch shaped like a sunflower, a cracked pearl ring from her mother, a single earring she refused to throw away because it had been a gift from a friend who died young. Every item in that box had a story, a memory. And now my sister, who didn't even pick up the phone when our mother died, wanted to rifle through those memories like a thrift store. I looked at Micah sitting on the couch, reading one of Grandma's old books. Something in me hardened. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew this. If she was coming for something, she wasn't walking away with everything. The day Talia arrived felt like a storm that never touched the ground. The sky was gray, but the wind stayed still. Everything inside the house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like something's about to break. I hadn't spoken to her since that text. I didn't reply. I didn't confirm the funeral details. I didn't need to. She never asked. Still that morning, she showed up. Her arrival was exactly how you'd expect it. Black SUV, sunglasses, nails done, heels clicking on the driveway like she was walking into a fashion show. Not her mother's house. Micah watched from the window. He said nothing, but I felt his energy shift. His small hands tightened around the book he was holding. I opened the door before she could knock. She didn't hug me. She didn't say anything about Mom. She just stepped inside and looked around like she was seeing the house for the first time. Her eyes didn't stop on the photos or the urn on the table, only on the edges of the room, like she was scanning for something she could take. Then came her first words. "So, did Mom leave anything for me? Jewelry or money?" Just like that. No hesitation, no shame. I stared at her, trying to remember the last time she had spoken to Mom with kindness. I couldn't recall it. Even during the diagnosis, she barely asked questions. She'd brushed it off as just another health scare. Esther had written her letters, called her, left voicemails. Most were never returned, and now here she was, less than 72 hours after our mother's death, looking for an inheritance. I swallowed my anger. "She didn't leave a will," I said. Talia scoffed like I was lying. "You're telling me she didn't leave anything behind?" "She left memories," I said, "and stories and time, and a grandson who adored her." Talia rolled her eyes. "That's not what I meant." "I know." The tension in the room was thick. Micah came around the corner, holding a small wooden box, one I hadn't seen before. It was old, carved with tiny vines and a small brass latch. "She wanted this," he said softly. He held it out to Talia like it weighed something real, something sacred. She raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Micah didn't answer. He just kept holding it out, both hands open. I didn't say a word. I hadn't seen what he'd put in it. He had asked if he could prepare something the night before. I thought it might be a drawing, maybe a photo. I had no idea what he chose, but something about the way he stood, shoulders squared, eyes steady, made me trust him more than I'd ever trusted my own instincts. Talia took the box. Her fingers brushed against his, but he didn't flinch. He just watched. She popped the latch. Her lips parted as she looked inside. And then she froze, not dramatically, not like in movies. It was quiet, subtle. Her shoulders tightened, her mouth closed. Her eyes didn't blink. I stepped forward, confused. Then I saw it. Inside the box was a small photograph, an old Polaroid, its edges slightly curled. It was of our mother, Esther, sitting in the garden behind our old house. She had both of us in her lap. Talia was probably 3, I was 5. Mom's arms were wrapped tightly around us. Her smile was full, glowing. Sunlight hit her hair just right. You could see everything in that moment: love, pride, sacrifice. Underneath the photo was a folded piece of paper. Talia slowly opened it. Micah had written in careful handwriting, "She gave her treasures to the people who stayed." That was it. No rage, no guilt trip, just the truth. I watched Talia's face. She didn't cry, she didn't speak. She just stared at the photo like it was from a life she barely remembered, one she hadn't earned the right to forget. Then she closed the box slowly, set it down on the console table, and backed away like it might burn her. She didn't look at me, didn't look at Micah. She just picked up her bag and left. No goodbye, no apology, no claim. The door clicked shut behind her. Micah turned to me and asked, "Did I do something wrong?" I knelt in front of him. "No, baby," I said, wrapping my arms around him. "You did something right." Because what he gave her wasn't a punishment. It was the truth, plain and simple. And some truths hit harder than any inheritance ever could. After Talia left, the house was still, but not in the same way it had been since Mom passed. The stillness felt different, like a window had finally been shut after days of cold air sneaking in. Something had settled. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the small wooden box she'd left behind on the console table. She didn't take it, didn't even try, and I think that said more than if she had slammed the door or thrown it back at us. Micah sat next to me, swinging his legs just slightly, looking down at his lap. "You think she'll come back?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe, but I don't think she'll ask for anything else." He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "I just didn't want her to pretend she cared. Grandma would have hated that." And he was right. That was the moment I realized Micah had done what I couldn't. He'd drawn the line, not out of spite, not to be cruel, but out of protection. For me, for himself, for the truth of who Grandma Esther really was. Talia wasn't the villain in some dramatic family tragedy. She was just someone who had made choices. And choices have consequences. Not always loud ones, not always punishable, but emotional ones. Invisible debts. I thought back to the night before Talia came. Micah had walked into my bedroom holding that box. I recognized it immediately. It used to sit under Mom's bed. She kept old church notes in it, letters from friends, ticket stubs from plays she saw in the 80s. "I want to put something in this for Aunt Talia." he had said. I paused, unsure. Why? He shrugged. Because she's going to expect something, and I want her to see something real. I could have said no, could have told him it wasn't his place, but something about the seriousness in his voice, this quiet maturity, made me step aside. What do you want to put in it? I asked. He didn't tell me. He just said, I'll figure it out. So I let him. And when she opened it and saw that photo, the one of Mom with us in the garden, it was like everything she didn't say over the years suddenly echoed through that silence. Every missed call, every skipped visit, every birthday card that never came, it was all there. And the note? She gave her treasures to the people who stayed. It wasn't meant to shame her. It wasn't about guilt. It was about clarity. Later that evening, I sat on the porch while Micah played in the yard. The sun was going down. A soft orange spilled across the trees. I held the photo in my hands, the one he had chosen. I remembered that day in the garden. Mom had made us matching peanut butter sandwiches and told us stories about the moon. Talia had cried because she wanted jelly instead. Mom had picked her up, kissed her forehead, and said, I'll make you a jelly one tomorrow, but today we sit together. I don't think Talia remembered that, but I did. And now Micah would too. I thought about what to do next, about whether I should call her, try again, offer some kind of peace. But I realized something important. Peace doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it just means letting go of the weight you've carried for someone else. That night, I went into Mom's room one last time. I opened the jewelry box she had kept on her dresser. I took out the sunflower brooch and pinned it onto my sweater. Then I took the cracked pearl ring and slipped it into a velvet pouch. I didn't do it for Talia. I did it for me, for Micah, for Esther. Because memories, when honored, don't disappear. They get passed down, not through things, but through love that's remembered. I walked into Micah's room. He was already under the covers, eyes half closed. You were brave today, I whispered. He mumbled, I didn't feel brave. That's how you know it's real, I said. Bravery isn't loud, it's just doing what's right, even when it's hard. He nodded, eyes closing, and I knew in that moment something had shifted. Not just in him, but in me. For the first time since Mom died, I felt like I could breathe again. Not because everything was okay, but because we had told the truth. And sometimes that's enough. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The house was quiet, Micah still asleep, his breathing soft through the cracked door. I walked through the hallway barefoot, pausing at the door to my mother's room. I opened it. The scent of lavender still lingered faintly in the air. I hadn't moved much. Her robe was still hanging on the door, slippers tucked neatly by the dresser, as if she might walk in and slip them on. The little velvet pouch I had packed the night before, the one holding the cracked pearl ring, was still sitting on her jewelry box. I reached for it, not because I planned to give it to Talia, but because I needed to decide what to do with it. Holding it, I felt like I was touching something sacred. That ring had no real value, no appraisal, no resale worth, but it had memory. And memory is weightier than gold. I sat on the bed, fingers tracing the edges of the pouch, when I heard a knock at the door. Software, hesitant. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Talia. I stayed frozen for a moment. Then I stood up, left the pouch behind, and walked to the front door. She wasn't wearing makeup this time. Her hair was pulled back, and she had on a sweatshirt and jeans that didn't look like they came from a high-end boutique. There were no sunglasses. Her hands were empty. She looked smaller than before, not physically, just deflated. I just wanted to say goodbye, she said. I didn't speak. I waited. I shouldn't have said what I said on the phone, she continued. And I shouldn't have asked about the jewelry. That was wrong. Still, I said nothing. She looked down at her feet, then back at me. I opened the box last night, at my hotel. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I watched her, silent. That photo, I forgot that day even happened, but when I saw it, it hit me. She paused, voice starting to break. I realized I've spent so much of my life running away from this family, and when Mom died, I thought I'd feel relieved. Isn't that horrible? No, I said quietly. It's honest. I was angry for a long time, At her, at you, at how close you two were. I thought she loved you more. I looked down. That part stung, but I also understood it. She didn't love me more, Talia. She just loved whoever let her. Talia nodded slowly, tears starting to collect at the corners of her eyes. I wasn't here, she said. I missed everything, and now I want to remember her, but I don't even know who she was at the end. She was tired, I said. But she was peaceful. She forgave you a long time ago. Silence again. The wind picked up slightly, and I noticed Talia's arms folded across her chest, not in defiance, but to hold something in. I don't want anything, she whispered. Not jewelry, not money. I just wanted to know if she thought about me at the end. She did, I said. She always did. I stepped away from the door and walked to the table by the stairs. The wooden box still sat there. The photo was gone now, but the memory of that moment still lived inside it. I picked up the velvet pouch and returned. She was going to leave this for you. I lied gently. Talia took the pouch in both hands like it might shatter. She opened it slowly, saw the ring, and gasped. This was Grandma's, wasn't it? I nodded. She wore it almost every Sunday. Talia smiled, a real one, soft and unsure. She used to let me try it on when I was little. I thought it made me a princess. Maybe it still does, I said. She let out a small laugh, and for a brief moment, it felt like we were kids again. Two sisters sharing a room, whispering after bedtime. She didn't ask for more. She didn't stay long. But before she left, she hugged me. Tight. Like she meant it. And that was the real inheritance. Not the ring, not the photo, but the moment we finally saw each other again, not as enemies, not as rivals, but as two daughters of the same woman. Broken in different ways, and maybe starting to heal. After Talia left, the house felt lighter. Not quiet, light. Like something had lifted that had been pressing down for years, unnoticed. I closed the door and leaned against it for a moment, not out of exhaustion, but relief. Micah came around the corner, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Was that Aunt Talia? He asked. I nodded. Did she cry? A little. He thought about that. Good. Then he walked into the kitchen and started pouring cereal like it was just another Saturday. I watched him, marveling at how children understand truth better than most adults. To him, the situation had always been simple. You show up for the people you love. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be there. Talia hadn't been, not for Mom, not for me, and yet, and somehow, in the end, she came back, not for the jewelry, but for the chance to feel something real, and maybe that was enough. Later that day, I found myself back in Mom's room. The diffuser had stopped running. The sunlight through the window made dust float like little ghosts. I sat on the edge of her bed and took a deep breath. I could still hear her voice in my head. Ayla, grief is not something you fix. It's something you carry differently over time. She used to say that when I lost my job or when Micah's dad walked out on us. She never gave me empty comfort. She gave me presence. Presence that meant more than advice ever could. So now, I tried to do the same. For Micah, and even for Talia in a way. I had no idea what her path would look like after this. Whether she'd call more often, whether she'd drift again. But I knew that the box, that moment, would stay with her. That single photo of our mother holding us as children. That simple line written in Micah's small handwriting, she gave her treasures to the people who stayed. That wasn't about blame. It was about clarity, about knowing that love isn't measured in what you inherit. It's measured in what you hold when someone's gone. The time, the sacrifice, the moments. And that's what Talia finally saw when she opened that box. She didn't walk away with heirlooms or apologies, but she walked away knowing the truth, that she had lost something she never fully realized she had. I think that's the lesson I walked away with too. Grief didn't make me bitter, it made me honest. I used to wonder what would happen when Mom was gone. How I'd handle the silence, the decisions, the weight of being the only one who really knew her in those final days. But I realized something unexpected. I wasn't alone. Micah was with me, and more importantly, I was with me. That version of myself that stood beside a hospital bed at 3 a.m., holding Mom's hand through her last breath. That woman was strong. That woman didn't need validation from a sister who arrived too late. She just needed peace. And slowly, quietly, I found it. In the sound of Micah's laugh while he played outside. In the softness of my mother's robe as I folded it gently into a box marked, "Keep Forever." In the small, quiet fact that love doesn't end when someone dies. It just changes shape. I tucked the velvet pouch away in a drawer, not for safekeeping, but as a reminder. A reminder that love, when real, never has to be demanded. It shows up. It stays. It lives in the corners of a house, the echo of a bedtime story, the photograph in an old wooden box. And when people ask me now what mom left behind, I say, everything that mattered, and nothing that could be taken,